Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
70,000 thoughts every day. So I ask all of you we're thinking about thinking this week. So the very basic, I'm asking you this week to think about thinking in your own life. Like what role, if we're all having 70,000 thoughts a day, what is your relationship to those 700,000 thoughts? How do you relate to that yourself? And how does that relate to your spiritual journey? It's really hard to control those thoughts. And whether we like thinking or not is very much what Cassie said. If we're thinking about things that we enjoy or that are positive, we like thinking. And if we can also think about things we don't like. And worry, anxiety, those are not thoughts that we enjoy having. And so thoughts themselves can be very dualistic. They have the whole spectrum. And so this idea that we can control 70,000 thoughts a day, or get rid of them, like sometimes people feel the spiritual journey is about getting rid of 70,000 thoughts a day. That is a full-time job in of itself. So how can we look at thoughts in a helpful way? These thoughts that can go all over the spectrum. Well, we know imagination is an aspect of thinking. I was listening to this woman, she's Stanford Law School, and she was talking about her whole life she had done the right thing, gone on this path, studied hard, was a good student, got a lot of positive feedback from the world for doing it, but she felt while she was at law school that she was in this box, and it wasn't her, it was what she was supposed to be. This was the good thing, she got a lot of validation for it, but she didn't feel herself. So she started taking classes outside of law school, creative design, just opening up her mind and her imagination. And she started discovering all new aspects of herself that she hadn't known and didn't fit in with her compartmentalized idea of who she was. And she tells this, one of the stories or the research that she's learned in her exploration was apparently there's a study that is done with, an experiment with lots of different people, CEOs, lawyers, engineers, teachers, all sorts of different types of people. They take groups of 4 people and they give them 20 spaghetti sticks, a yard of string, I think like a yard of tape, a lot of tape, and a marshmallow. And what they're asked to do is to build a structure as high as they possibly can, and the marshmallow has to be on top. And so with all these different groups that they've done this so many times with so many different people, professions, and the group that has the best result are kindergartners. And they had to ask why. And they found that no matter who you are, even if you're an engineer, the professionals approached it from what we already know, and would get an idea, okay, this is how it's going to work, and they would keep working at the idea, and if it didn't work, they would still try to problem solve it, but with a very clear idea of like what, they had a very strong intention, and it wasn't open. It was very focused and clear. The kindergartners didn't care. They had no agenda whatsoever. They didn't have any past experience, so to them it was just play. Oh, it fell down, that didn't work, let's try something else. They didn't have like an agenda, this is how an engineer would do it, or a lawyer, this is how we're gonna problem solve it, or a CEO, this is how we're gonna problem solve it. They didn't have any problem solving, they just were imaginative. And through their imagination, they were incredibly successful. They were seeing out beyond they didn't have past precedent yet. Imagination, as we know, Einstein said imagination is more powerful than thinking because it takes us outside of what we're used to experiencing. Our thoughts have a lot of patterns to them. Imagination takes us out of those patterns and allows for new ideas. And the best way to look at that is when we dream. When we dream, anything's possible, right? Your dream is completely uninhibited. It does not care what your profession is, how many years of schooling you've had in this, what you know and what you don't. It doesn't care. It just plays. There's so many infinite possibilities in our dream life, and when you can wake up in your dream life, you get to play in that playground. But what's interesting about imagination, and you also see this in your dream, is it needs to go to the next step, which is structure. Our dreams, you can be in one country and then 3 seconds later in a whole other country with different people. It's hard to build anything with just imagination in our own life, to recreate. So if we want to shift things in our life, imagination is good to get us out of the box, to get us thinking freely. And then from that place, we want to create new patterns of thinking. We still need thought. That's part of this existence of world. We are emotional beings, but we are also thinking beings. And so our thinking beings have structures. So every one of us have structures and patterns of thought. And they run subconsciously, meaning they run on automatic pilot. And so often what Cassie was pointing to in our classes, we're trying to become conscious of those automatic pilot thoughts to shift how we do things to allow for new experiences, because now we've changed our pattern of thought. But again, 70,000 thoughts a day. People often get overwhelmed and feel like now I have to control all my thoughts, or at least the majority of them, and people get very frightened if they have bad thoughts, I'm creating bad things. So let's really look at the power of how thoughts work. Thoughts do not work as individual entities, they work as patterns. So what we're doing is we're looking at a pattern of thought, not singular thoughts. And so the pattern of thought is what I like to call an idea. So for me, the power is to recognize the idea, the greater idea, and hold that, and then the thoughts start to conform to the idea. So many people, for instance, have financial limitations, past issues or training of lack and the whole world has lack and limitation as part of our training. So to change that, it's not that we have to change every single little thought, 70,000 thoughts a day. It's we want to change our idea, the idea that this is a world of lack and limitation. So we start retraining our mind and saying, no, this world is a infinite universe. It is the divine universe. It is unlimited. It can never be limited. Nothing of this world can ever add or detract from this presence that already is, and it is abundance. And so we hold that idea of abundance, the idea of abundance throughout the day. You don't have to control every thought. As you hold the idea of abundance, our thoughts start to conform to the idea. They start to mold to the idea of abundance. And what we'll start finding is that our individual thoughts start to go in alignment with abundance, because we're holding this idea, this divine idea of infinite abundance. If it's health, we hold the divine idea of health. Not every single thought has to be health. We can have worrying thoughts, but we want to change the ultimate idea that's running us, because the more we hold that idea of abundance or health or I am lovable. There's another minister who told, and I heard it years ago, so it's not on the tip of my tongue, but I remember her telling this horrible story of just incredible abuse. I think her boyfriend even tried to kill her, and she still went back to him when he got out of jail. Incredible self-worth issues. She came to this teaching and started working on the pattern of worthiness. She didn't have to change every thought. She wasn't trying to rip apart her subconscious mind to find the hidden guilty thoughts that were unworthy. It was just holding this divine idea of worthiness. You can hold the divine idea of lovability. Just hold that one idea, I am lovable, or I am loving and lovable. Just hold that idea every day. The idea itself becomes a magnetic attraction for thoughts to conform. And so the more we see people so she held this idea and held this idea, and her whole life changed. I mean, it's extraordinary. When I hear the story, it's so not who she is today. but it's because she held on to this idea. And we know that we can't change things, it takes consistency, right? And anything we really want to change, it's consistent. If you want to run a marathon, you can't run for a week or two and then stop for another 2 weeks, and then you'll have to start all over again. You have to be consistent if you want to run a marathon. If you want to change things in your life, change patterns, you have to stay consistent, but not with every thought. This is the part where we get confused. We do not have to become these control freaks and become policing our thoughts or policing other people's thoughts. Like, you have to say everything right, you have to say everything right. No, what we want is that idea to take us over, and the more we hold that idea actually starts to become part of our subconscious mind. What we want are these incredibly healthy ideas to become part of our natural state, we're always going to have automatic pilot. We are not deciding things 1,000 times a day. We go on automatic pilot. What we want on automatic pilot are these incredibly healthy, divine ideas in the center of our being. So I have a friend, she grew up in extreme poverty and became incredibly abundant. But she continually worked on abundance. Like, that was her quality. And it never stopped. It wasn't like she stopped ever working, because she just wanted it to be so ingrained that every atom and cell of her being, her subconscious mind and her conscious mind, aligned with abundance. And then, of course, her thoughts and her speech started to radiate abundance, because she couldn't help it, because she was holding this divine idea. This is really, really important to help us and to serve us. Our theme this year is your spiritual journey, the greatest love story ever told. And part of this love story is being in love with the power and the beauty of our thoughts, and that our thoughts are serving something greater. There's an idea called, from Carl Jung, who has this term called individuation. And what he was saying is that there's a time where in our development where when you're kids, there's a conformity. You want to do what the teacher tells you to do or what your parents do. It's a stage of development. It's a powerful stage of development. But at one point in our development, we have to individuate. We have to pull away from what other people are telling us is true and find what we think for ourselves. And so many of us in the adult world are doing this. So there's a million stories along this line. The woman I was just talking about, who went to Stanford, did exceedingly well doing what other people asked her to do, but she didn't feel like it was her choice. When we start learning that thoughts are our choice, where we don't have to think in the patterns that were given to us, but that we get to actually create our own thoughts, then we have to say, well, who am I? And we get to create this new being, and that's what individuation is. Individuation is all about recognizing the power of choice. René Descartes, I think, therefore I am. And the way he got there, he was actually just thinking, well, what if there's an evil genius? I remember sitting in philosophy class, and I remember it so well because it freaked me out when he was talking about this evil genius controlling us, and we're all just puppets. And he said, but it's not, because I get to choose. I think, therefore I am. And what he meant by thinking is I get to choose my thoughts. We are free. We are free because we get to choose our thoughts. The only challenge with individuation, and this is why what Ernest Holmes was doing was so great, is sometimes when we do individuation, we almost think that we're islands. And so if I'm going to change my thinking and change my thought, I have to do it all myself. I don't know, I actually haven't read the book, but I'm familiar with what he was saying. It was David Hawkins talking the difference between power versus force. Force, you have to make things happen. I'm going to affirm, and I'm going to affirm, and I'm going to get what I want. And I remember someone saying, God, this is years ago, I'm just going to positive think myself into health. That's not what we're doing. The reading said it, right? The reading was, we are knowing that there's something so much greater than us, and it's already that. Our thoughts are aligning with that which already is. I'm not making up divine abundance. I'm not making up that I'm lovable. I am recognizing that that is who and what the divine is, and I am one with that. So I'm turning my attention to the divine idea that is alive in me. I am love. I am abundance. I am healthy. That is my truest nature. That's the divine idea. And when we align with that, again, then we align with it through choice. Oh, I'm going to choose to remember this idea today. Today I'm going to remember the idea that I'm abundant. And I don't need to keep micro-control, police every thought, but I am going to bring my attention, my heart, my body, everything that I am to this awareness that all that I am is abundance, or all that I am is health, or all that I am is love. And of course, all the qualities include each other, because it is the isness. It's the ground of all being. And this is the place where we start moving into freedom. I was in a beautiful little group of people on Friday, and we were talking a little bit about the entire universe conspiring for our good. The entire universe is conspiring for our good. We don't feel that when we're individuating and saying, I'm going to do this, and this is my thing. When we align with the infinite power of the universe, then we know the entire universe is conspiring for our good. So we don't have to force anything. The power, it is powerful. So if you move into abundance, it's not you yourself making yourself abundant. You are aligning yourself with the abundance that already is, and then we feel the infinite power pouring through us. The power does not come from the thinking. The power comes from right thinking, which is aligning itself with the power that already is. So my thoughts aren't what's powerful. My thoughts are when I choose thoughts that align me with the power that already is. It's infinite power. It's infinite love. It's infinite abundance. The thing that really made me clear about this was when I had my aneurysm in 2019. As I mentioned before, I'm not going to go through the whole experience, but just two aspects that were really important. So I had two dreams and omen, I guess, prior. So I knew it was going to come, and I knew it was going to be good. I knew somehow I was going to end up in the hospital, and I knew it was going to be a good thing. There was nothing but joy there. So I didn't feel fear. So the day that it happened where I'm writing, actually the first one was Julian. He was saying goodbye to him, and I said something weird. And I couldn't, was I being silly, or was that, did I not, I don't know. And then I was journaling, and I could still think, but I couldn't get it out on the paper. I'd write something, it had nothing to do with it, and I was aware enough to know that it wasn't matching. My thoughts and my writing wasn't matching. But I didn't feel fear for two reasons. One, I had those dreams, I knew this was coming, and I knew it was a good. Two, when I got to Dublin, the doctor, my thinking was going in and out, so I'm having a normal conversation with him, and I'm like, I probably just need a massage, that's, if I'm a little stressed in my head, and we're laughing, he takes the CAT scan, comes back, he's pale. He's like, you have an aneurysm in your head and it's bleeding right now. This is not good. And I saw his fear and I felt nothing, no fear. And as Diane Pollard was helping out, she was fighting for me, Jack and Julian came, and I got to see the concern on people's face. There was a lot of what's next to do. The doctor was the one where I really saw the fear, the most fear, because I think he knew more than any of us what he was seeing. We didn't have any history. I later on learned the statistics of that type of aneurysm, so I'm glad to be here. But it wasn't of me, and it wasn't of the physical body. Like I said, I'd had dreams before. I knew this was happening. There is a power greater than we are. If we have a divine idea for health and say, well, this doesn't look like health, or I have a divine idea to my desire, my greatest desire was always to know my oneness and union in God. Well, this doesn't look right. My life's supposed to flow in ease and grace. So we want to feel and know the power and the presence of God because we know it's greater than anything that's happening. So I felt and experienced, even sitting in that office, I was aware of fear. but I felt nothing but joy because I knew who I was. My thoughts, I'm talking about the verbal thoughts, were not who I was. You know, we have in the Bible, who can add 1 cubit to what has already been given us? 1 cubit. Who can take away 1 cubit? We say we are whole, perfect, and complete. We say that. So that means even if I can't think or speak the way I normally can, nothing was taken from me, and I knew it. I was whole. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I wasn't feeling, I wish I could talk. I was good. It's great. And then I went on to the, and then as I'm, into the aneurysm or the surgery, and I'm having this experience of ascension. I'm going up, and it's all light, and I'm seeing all these prayers for me. It still gets me. It was beautiful. I couldn't see people. I just saw the tops of their heads and all these prayers coming up. And it was like a web. But I want to be clear. Those prayers weren't making something happen that wasn't already happening. The good had already happened. The prayers were all of us aligning in the oneness, because when one of us is free, all of us is free. I was taking you all with me, and you were keeping me in your heart. There's a web of light and love. It just made everything brighter and better, and it was so beautiful to know that as I was on this journey, I was with everyone who was praying with me. Often when we are praying, we think that we are doing something for the other person, but in fact, what's really happening is this incredible soul connection. The moment we pray for someone, we are so deeply soul connected with that being and their journey, because no one's on this journey alone. We are all on this journey together. That's the whole idea of oneness. We're all together, and when we pray, we're recognizing that we are on this journey together. On the other side of the veil or here or whatever's happening, we are together, and I got to experience that. So the reason why I'm telling this story is to say that our thoughts, it wasn't the thoughts that had power. Always, the divine is the power in our life. That is the power of our life. The thoughts were aligning with the power. So every time people were praying, they were aligning with the good that already is. We pray a lot for people's highest good because we don't have to know everything. We just know, if we know that we know, and we know God, we know this divine presence, we know creator, source, whatever our word is, when we know that presence, we know it's going to be good, and our thoughts and our prayers align with that good and are unrelenting in that divine idea of infinite goodness, and nothing can shake it. And miracles happen and beautiful things happen. So the entire experience for me afterwards was just a place of joy. But that wouldn't have been, and so I've been talking, this is my 3rd week mentioning this, and I'll continue because that's what this year is about on our spiritual journey, is if I didn't have a 30-year meditation practice. And I'm not talking a practice off and on, a consistent practice. And when you do a consistent practice, as Shunra Suzuki says, which I love, when you first start it, you're like, oh, this is so cool. But then you're like into the 2nd week, and you're like, no big, I just think all the time. My mind doesn't show up. I'm a monkey mind. We have 70,000 thoughts. Yes, we're going to have thoughts when we meditate. Our goal, some people's goal is to erase their mind. I know very few people who can, but God bless them. They might slow down. Our relationship to our thoughts might change. I could see my thoughts, but they weren't who I was. Who I was so much greater than my thoughts. The thoughts were just a human expression, but there's something that comes before that. So when I meditate, I don't mind that I have thoughts. I'm just aware of a presence that is greater, that's in the midst of those thoughts. And so taking that time every day, we might not think that it's anything special, but we're actually connecting with that which is eternal and more powerful and more real than trying to force things in the visible world. And the other thing that I got clear on was the power of prayer. Because prayer is how we connect, and this is the beauty of what Ernest Holmes created with the way we do our treatments, is we connect with that eternal self. We are not on our own. He talks a lot more than I even realize about how wise this eternal presence is, and to listen and pay attention to these divine ideas, and then allow it to move through us out into expression. And that's what prayer is. Prayer is connecting and then allowing the words to align with that which already is, and then we are connected, spirit, mind, heart, body. So prayer and meditation are the place of freedom. Without that, we're always, if we think that we are our thoughts, then we have to be policing our thoughts all the time. We have to be in constant control of our thoughts. It's exhausting, and it's ultimately not the place where the power is. You can do things with your thoughts. People do all the time. But if you're disconnected with your source, you're not going to feel the entire universe is conspiring for your good. You're not going to enjoy thinking because you're not going to feel all the love and the joy and the grace and the abundance and the love and the beauty and the harmony and the creativity that is pouring through your awareness and your thoughts. That's when thinking becomes fun. That's when thinking comes alive. Not because we're in control, but we know the divine ideas of creativity, of joy, of wisdom, of love, of peace pouring through us. And not only for ourselves, but for one another. I love that song that Jack sang today. You know, our freedom is everybody else's freedom. We're here for one another. We are one. I am not an island. You are not an island. We are in this together. We have Martin Luther King's birthday tomorrow. We're in this together. I remember I was coming home. Well, I heard this guy say something that I loved. He was a Princeton philosophy professor. And he said, here's how you know, there's personal freedom, so I'm talking about personal freedom, learning to align with the divine idea and have our thoughts aligned with the divine idea and let them pour through us. Meditate, wake up, all of these things. Those are all personal ways to become free. And he said, the way you know if you have public freedom and he said, if you can look someone in the eye and not feel fear, not feel like you have to defer to them, not feel like you have to overpower them out of a defense mechanism, where you can just softly be yourself directly, look in someone's eyes, that's when you know you're free in the public domain. When I was in high school, I was coming home, I was at a party on an evening and it got out of control and the police broke it up and I was driving home and I didn't drink. Never took to drinking alcohol. So I was stone cold sober, and the policeman stopped me, and so that just angered me. I just had self-righteousness, like, you got the wrong person here, man. And he told me that, you know, okay, he stopped me, you need to go directly home, you don't go anywhere else. And I was like, I talked back to him. I said, no, I don't. I can go to my friend's house. I haven't done anything wrong. I was very clear not just that I was sober, but I was also white. I knew that. I was in a school where half of us, half my classmates were black, and we were talking about race relations all the time. This was a constant conversation, and I knew I would never, ever say that if I had skin color that was darker than I had. I knew I wouldn't. That is not freedom. I wouldn't talk back to a police officer. I might feel fear. I might feel like I have to defer just for survival. That is not freedom for everybody. We are here to create patterns of thought, the divine idea of freedom for all beings. That's the divine idea that is true. Emma Curtis Hawkins said, oh man, I wish I'd written the quote down, because it's such a brilliant quote. If the truth has been spoken and we are not free, then the truth has not been spoken. If the truth sets us free, that's what it is. The truth sets us free and we are not free, then the truth has not been spoken. That's the quote. If the truth sets us free and we are not free, then the truth has not been spoken. All of us need to be aligning our lives in this beautiful divine truth of our freedom, of our inherent freedom, of our inherent beauty, of our inherent lovability, of our inherent abundance, of our inherent creativity. We align ourselves, but we also hold that divine idea that everything that is true for us is true for all beings, and that divine idea needs to come alive as a habit pattern, as automatic pilot for our entire planet, and we are not done until that is the case. That is the power of choosing our thoughts to align with freedom and living a true spiritual journey that includes all beings. We are free. It's already been given to us. May we choose thoughts that align with that in our everyday life, for ourselves and for one another, so we can look at each other and not feel fear. So we can look each other in the eye and not feel like we have to defer or dominate. When we can go into our bathroom and look at ourselves in the mirror and not feel fear, not feel judgment, not feel like we have to defer to some other idea of who we should be. That's the true freedom, and that's the freedom we have every time we choose what we want to think. Let's pray. So we come together when we pray. Prayer is so good, because prayer is choice. And so we are collectively coming together in that power of choice and the freedom to choose. And we choose to know that there's something greater than all of us. No human concept can ever wrap itself around what this presence is. But through our connection with this presence, knowing that it is at the center of our being, it's the center of all life, everywhere we feel, taste, and touch beyond what can be seen, taste, touch, and smelled. When we see with the eyes behind the eyes, when we hear with the ear behind the ear, when we feel with the heart behind the heart, we recognize this power and this presence and its infinite goodness all of the time. It is the power. That is the place of power, is this infinite goodness. We didn't create this goodness. We didn't create this love. We didn't create this abundance. It already is now, in this moment. It already is. We can never add one cubit to the love, to the beauty, to the harmony, to the grace, to the health, to the joy, the bliss that this presence is. It is it now. It is us, as every atom and cell of our being. We are pulsating and vibrating at the deepest level of our being: harmony, beauty, grace, abundance, health, joy, love, peace. Right now. Not because we're thinking it, because it already is. But today, in this moment, we are choosing to collectively turn our thoughts and our attentions, our beautiful 70,000 thoughts, we are allowing those thoughts to align itself with that which already is. We are feeling the vibrancy of our thoughts as we align with the peace and the harmony and the joy, whatever those qualities that you came in here to experience and to know for yourself. Clarity is a powerful quality. Whatever that quality is that you came here to know today, whatever you came here to see and feel today, our thoughts are aligning with the divine idea that it's already here. The divine idea is already here, and so we joyfully align our choices and our thoughts with this divine idea. Right now, our divine idea is aligned with our thoughts, and our thoughts are aligned with our divine idea. Just breathe that in, the total unification of our thoughts, our feelings, our knowing, in our human self, aligned with the divine idea that is already whole, perfect, and complete. Our thoughts are aligning with the all power of the universe. Our thoughts are aligning with the all power of the universe, where there's nothing against us, where everything is for us. The entire universe is conspiring for our highest good now, in this moment. Not because we had to do anything to earn it, not because we said or thought anything other than aligning ourselves with the truth that it's already there. We are already free. We are already free. Nothing can ever limit the freedom of pure spirit, and that is who we are. We align our thoughts with that awareness, the power of that awareness here and now, and we walk into this world as free beings with our head held high, with our eyes wide open in love. We do not need to defend ourselves. We do not need to attack. We are free. We are free in this love, in the beauty of our being right now. And in this freedom and in this joy, we just say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this divine awareness here and now, this divine awareness of freedom as our entire body and being. Thank you. We live it, we know it, and we thank God for it. And I invite us all now to say, and so it is.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all